Let me know when you got it on. So you do have it on. It is ready to record right now. This is some old paint. I hope it comes out all right. So what we got going on here? We painted these fenders last time, uh, in a rush maybe, not so much as a rush, but we painted them and ended up getting some kind of little teeny. I don't know if it's something just hatched, little bug critters or whatever, but it looked like a bunch of little fine stuff in it. They're real small, whatever it was. I could have probably, well, I know I could have wet sanded them out and buffed it out, but I didn't want to go through all that. I had some extra paint here, so I just figured I'd let it dry a little while, and we'd come back on a better day, and we'd just respray it again. So that's what we're going to do here this morning. We're just going to mix up a little bit of paint, and we're just going to put about 2 coats over them. We already got primer, that good primer, and we already got 2 or 3 coats of paint we put on them last time, urethane, single stage. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to mix up a little bit more. We've been waiting on it to quit being so foggy out here this morning till some of the moisture got out of the air. I was trying to get it earlier before the bugs got out, but I see some of them already out. We're just going to blow it and get any of the little fine stuff on here off. So we had to come back and cut us some holes in the bottom for the lights anyway. After I had already painted them, I decided I was going to put some lights in. And if I didn't have them little bugs in there, I wouldn't have to come back and do anything to it. But we had got a pretty good run on one side on one of these corners that I was going to have to fix. And we got all them little, I don't know what you call them things was. They real fine. Some type of insect in there, so I just made a decision just to come back, respray it. If I wouldn't have extra paint already in there, I probably would have just wet sanded it and buffed them out, but I had some paint in there that's going to go bad if I don't use it. That's what we're going to do. Cut this off. All right, so let's get a couple coats on it and see what it looks like. We'll paint the edge first. Should have spread them out just a little bit more. got a little bit more. Let me throw it on here right quick. I'd probably just put 2 coats on there. Two coats with what we had already on there should be more than enough. We'll let that dry there for about 15, 20 minutes. And then we'll come back with one more coat on it. That'll be good. I don't never try to just load it down on the first one. As long as you don't leave it too dry, you can always come back and get it out. But you don't want to spray it super dry where you're just fogging it on first 1 or 2 coats, because when it dries, it's going to be real, what they call orange peel. It's going to be real bumpy. It don't matter how many coats you put on it, you can't really get it out that good. So if you start getting it real orange peeled up to start with, it's going to be hard to straighten it out. But you don't have to load it down super wet to start with. I have had it back in the day when I used to paint. I don't paint every day no more, and I rarely even paint, but I used to paint every once a week something when I was younger. And I have had it where I'd spray a little bit too much on it and too hot, and it would actually cause, something to go on with the primer or whatever base was up under there. It would wrinkle it up because it was too hot. And then I figured out, back off of it a little bit on that first coat and not have it so super wet, and let it have something to, dry to, and then it wouldn't do it. But there's a lot of little tricky stuff and a lot of little tricks that people learn over decades of, painting and do's and don't, mixing stuff. That's what makes them good, just because they got a lot of experience in different stuff that works and stuff that don't work. But there's a lot of little stuff that'll just pretty much screw your whole paint job up. It's a whole lot of stuff. I mean, obviously, you want a top-notch paint job, you can't be painting outside. You got to be in a controlled environment with, you got to be in some kind of controlled environment, a nice paint room. But you can, paint something outdoors if you ain't looking to get top-notch. Results. And you can get pretty good paint jobs outside. I painted a couple of vehicles outside over the years that some of them have come out just as good as some that were painted on the inside. It just depends on what's going on. Depends on the weather, depends on the amount of insects, the air, the right amount of air blowing. It actually take that paint up, faster outside. That paint will tack up with that air blowing than it will on the inside of a building somewhere. So you won't get as much stuff that, you could get a little insect to land on it out there, but that wind be already tacked it up so fast that it don't matter. It won't even make a track on it. Where if you was on the inside of a building, with no air really moving like that, other than the exhaust fan, it takes a little bit longer for it to tack up. So, and I can see better outside because you got natural light out there. You ain't got to worry about fluorescent lights, or you're getting in a shadow somewhere and you can't see. But you messing with white paint like that, you go blind looking at it after a while, you can't see. Everything looks the same if you got regular old lights out there. Well, you ain't got good lights. I never did have super good lights. I just had enough to see what I needed to see. I should have invested more in a nicer paint booth back then, but I used what I had, and it got me by. But if I'd have had some nicer stuff to work with, I wouldn't have had to work as hard. I probably wouldn't have learned some stuff, making mistakes, but I used what I had. I could probably afford to build me a nice paint room now, but I really ain't into all that paint and stuff like that no more. So if I had a big place, I could put one of my big trucks in there and do some painting on my own stuff, but it ain't really, I don't paint enough of trucks to be investing in those big paint rooms. But it makes a difference if you got the right tools to work with. But we're still going to get at about probably 10 more minutes. We don't want to spray it on there before it flashes. What'll happen if you do spray it too fast, I notice when it dries, it'll try to flash up under that top coat of paint, and it'll kind of like a little air bubble will come up there and pop. It'll make a mess out of your stuff. So give it time to flash. Don't be in no rush, and come back and hit it again. I always try to look in the sun, see if I got any dry spots anywhere. You can't come back 5 minutes later, but when you spray it right then is the time to do it. If you try to wait and come back, then you're going to have dry spray on your other stuff. So you got to do it while you're spraying it. This will be the last coat. I'm just going to put 2 coats on there. We already had 3 coats on it, 2 coats of primer, so this will be more than enough. what I was wanting to do is just basically get the bug stuff out of there. You basically want to keep that gun moving. If you let that gun stop for a split second while you think, you got to run. You better be thinking on the move. I probably should have a mask on out here. I forgot to grab it. This ain't help me to be breathing this mess. I'm outside. I don't really make it no better. Makes it a little bit better. You come back and fan it. If you do come back and fan it one last time, you better be quick about it. You just loaded it down and you come right back over it again, it's definitely gonna run. But if you fan it, sometimes it'll help it go ahead and lay down a little bit more smoother, slicker than it will had you not. All right. We're just gonna leave that right there. It's a little dry right there on that corner there. We're just gonna leave that right there. We're gonna let it sit there and get hard. Should be about 30 minutes. It should be tacked up enough that bugs really ain't gonna bother it that much. So if a little gnat or two gets in it, it ain't a big deal. You just scratch them out and put a little polish on it. All right, that'll be it for right now. I got some work I got to do with my trucks over here this morning, but we'll let that dry and we'll come back to it.